What's up guys, it's the new sensation, Big Annotation here, and today I'm coming at you with a second place set 12 Shroom Salsa deck from the regionals, which I just finished playing in like an hour ago. Apologies if the energy is a bit low in this video, I am exhausted. And also, overall, unfortunately, just not really feeling Dragon Ball Masters right now. A lot of my focus is going into this new Star Wars Unlimited card game that's come out, so if you guys are interested in that card game as well, hopefully we'll be getting some videos out on that soon. Still probably gonna, keep playing Masters and all that, at least entering like regionals and finals, hopefully, but yeah, I've definitely not been dedicating too much time to it in the recent couple of weeks and months. It's just not my priority, unfortunately. And the way the game's going has started to feel a little bit stale. But we'll get off the doom and gloom and we'll go into the deck. The reason why I played set 12 Shroom Salsa is, first of all, I mainly played it because I really like the deck. And I wanted to try it with the new Z Unison and some of the new stuff that you can do with the Z Unison. And I thought that it had a pretty decent U7 matchup initially, although now I think it's a lot more 50-50. It's still not bad by any means, but it can be really tough if they see Purunga too early for you to deal with. So it can just feel a little bit high rolly, I guess is the best way to put it. Otherwise it will just end up going to grind game, and I think you do win the grind game against U7 most of the time. But yeah, I mainly just played the deck because I enjoyed it, and I was curious to see what the deck could do with the new Z Unison, because it generates a lot of Z energy, and it can also protect the Z Unison pretty well by using it. The deck really wants to run Power Burst anyways, and the counterplay is really nice just to make you even tankier, which the deck already was very hard to kill. Yeah, there's a lot of merit to the Z Unison package, so I was just quite curious to try it out, and it ended up doing pretty well. I played like a couple of test games with some teammates against U7, against Green Gohan. I think that's it. I don't think I played this deck into anything else. I wasn't sure how the Vegeta matchup would do. I don't think it's too great, but it's not the worst. But we'll go into the deck. So leader, obviously, set 12 Shroom Salsa. The 1-drops, this deck does want to run some nice cantrips, because they're effectively draw 2s in the early game, because you can play them, draw 1, and then combo them off and draw another, which is great. And oftentimes, most decks, other than like a burst-oriented deck, like Vegeta or Vegex or something similar, most decks won't really fill up their drop area with more than 2 battle cards, so you can generally combo these off early on to get an extra draw. We went for the 4 Toa and the 4 Goku. The Goku is because we want to try and facilitate this new Z Unison package with the Vegito, Uni, and Potara stuff. I think the package was nice. I think there was some situation, like there were some matchups where it was good and some matchups where it was bad. Unfortunately, I did end up playing a lot of U7 today, and it isn't great into that matchup because of how easily they can clear it. And also, even just the double strike swing doesn't do all that much into U7 because they're floodgating you most turns anyways, so you can't even swing with it, and then they just kill it next turn. And it does take a decent chunk of setup in this deck because of the fact that you don't have like very easy to play Vegetas in the deck, and you're not bursting or anything, so you're not playing like any Vegetas that play out of drop or like the time agents or anything like that. So it can be a bit tricky to set up at times, and into U7 it's not great. Like I was siding out copies of the 6-drop Vegeta a lot of the time. But I think overall the package is pretty nice for the deck. And the Goku is an easy cantrip replacement for like a top 5 Demon Realm Race Searcher, because like I say, you want cantrips in this deck. And so worst case, you just play a turn 1, draw a card, combo off, draw a card. But best case, you can use it to Potara. And then we're still running the standard like small Demon Realm package of the 4 Toas and then the 4 Toas. This swap package is still really insane. Nothing's really changed about it. And if anything, it's gotten better because people are a lot more Unison focused with Z Unisons running about. There are some times into green Goku or green decks in general where you can just leave their Bardock Unison alive keep removing their board so that they rack up to 4 markers, and then just start slamming these down. And because they only have 1 charismatic now, there's not a whole lot they can do about it, and they just have to start warping 2 every turn, or they obviously lose the Unison. But then you can, you know, you get rid of the Unison without swinging into it at all. You don't have to waste any swings. And otherwise they're just warping 2, which is better than the draw 1 that they got off the Unison each turn anyways. So yeah, it's still a great package. It provides you with super nice early aggression, which if you can get a nice hand into U7 with like these guys and a couple of cantrips early, you can put on a lot of pressure and force through a nice crit as well. So yeah, the package is still great, and this is your main target for playing out of the deck off of your leader skill. And then I am still running 2 Mechis, because I think there's really nice cards you can call this format. Against Vegito, you can call the 6-drop Vegito Xeno. Against U7, you can call 6-drop Goku or Porunga sometimes if you really need to play around that card. There's a lot of like very big bombs this format that you can just call, and this does a lot of work. I did unfortunately I think I only played this card once today, because I had trouble setting up the opponent's drop area in one of the games, where I misplayed slightly and didn't do my leader swing properly, and I was intending to play this from the deck, but then wasn't able to set it up. And then the one game that I lost in the final round was because I got a little bit greedy early on against U7, didn't end up dropping a Mechi Kabura, maybe when I should have. It was on turn 3, so I thought I was okay to go a little bit more aggressive, push with Toa. But then he did unfortunately have the, you know, the blowout hand of Porunga plus 6-drop plus the, I think, 4-drop Goku he was able to follow up with on his turn 3 with the energy marker. And because I had obviously gone first, it was not very easy to deal with, so that ended up winning him the game. So there was definitely an argument for me to have gone for the Broken Seal on that turn instead. I wasn't sure that I would win the long game having used the Broken Seal that early, because I only had the one in hand or deck at the time. I think I'd either comboed off the other one or I just sided it out. But yeah, there was definitely an argument for me to go for the Mechi at that point, and that did end up costing me the game, unfortunately. But overall, still a great card. There's a lot of good stuff you can call. And then for the overarms, we're running 3 of the new TP and 1 Salsa. The reason for this is because I own 3 copies of the TP and not 4. You definitely want to run 4 copies of the TP if you can. I charged this most games that I saw it, and I think I played it once overall. This card is obviously better in the more Demon Realm Race focused version, because you can warp the 8-drops that you want to combo from warp off your Z leader or play from warp. But this card is one of the only Vegeta Xenos in the deck, other than the big 6-drop overrealm. So it's kind of important if you want to play a Vegeta Xeno. Oh, I guess the counterplays are Vegeta Xenos as well, but they're a lot more situational. This is like just such an easy card to bring out, and then you can Union Patara. And it also gives you more Z energy. It replaces itself on play, so it's not reliant on swinging to get the draw, which is great. It's just, this is an amazing card for black. And another big reason why I ended up playing this deck was because all 3 of the copies that I'd ordered off Card Market literally arrived yesterday. So I was planning to play some non-black stuff because I didn't own these cards, and then the 3 copies that I had ordered just showed up yesterday. So we did have the opportunity to play a black deck, which was nice. And then into the rest of the sort of Z Unison Vegito package, we've got 4 copies of the counterplay and 4 copies of the Vegito. Yeah, these cards are great. The one thing I would consider is maybe cutting down on the Vegitos. There is an argument to be made of cutting these entirely and going back to the Salsa overrealms, and then you can run the 8-drops and go a bit more Demon Realm Race focused again, and cut the 1-drop Goku and go for like a Demon Realm Race Searcher as well. And then you just have sort of the old build of the deck, but with the Z Unison and the counterplay. And I think that version is definitely still strong. There's an argument that it's stronger. I'm not entirely sure, because I never really had the chance to test any of it. I just sort of wanted to go full on into the Z Unison package and see what the deck could do without really considering the other options. But yeah, this Vegito is still great. The counterplay is obviously amazing. Like, there's no way you cut this card. You could maybe cut it down to 3 copies if you wanted to go less Vegito focused, but yeah, you definitely have at least 3 copies, if not 4 of this card. This card's insane. The Vegito you could cut down. I ended up siding it down to like 3 or 2 copies against every E7 because it's not great into that matchup. It was nice into the other decks I played against because they had less easy access to barrier removal, and it could also actually swing through in those matchups. But it's still like a little bit tricky to set up in this deck because you're very reliant on having this card or a counterplay, plus a 1-drop Goku on board. And the 1-drop Gokus on board, you kind of want to be comboing them off, or they might have been killed, so yeah, it can be a little bit tricky. Oftentimes when I did play it, it was because I'd had one of these counterplays stick around, and then I could follow it up with an overarm. Most of the time, the 1-drop Gokus were not sticking around, but there were some times where I did. But yeah, it's still a great package, of course. There's an argument to be made that you go more Demon Realm Race focused. I wanted to try the Saiyan route with the Z Unison. I think both are very strong. Another nice thing about obviously having copies of this card in the deck, which did come up a lot today, was that you can -3 on the Z Unison to play it from Warp. I think I did that most of my games today. It was very, very strong as a play. Obviously getting this guy for free is nuts. And this deck is very good at protecting the Z Unison, and if they're wasting swings on the Z Unison, then they're not hitting your leader, and this deck is, again, already tanky enough, so if they want to kill you, they have to send a lot of their swings to the leader to have a chance at doing that. So yeah, using the -3 to play this was actually very relevant, which I didn't expect, because I didn't expect my Z Unison to stick around as much as it did. 4 Cumbers. Card's just great, especially with the new Z-Deck buff. Yeah, it's a great card. Barrier removal in black is finally, like, very strong. You can maybe cut it down to 3 copies in matchups where there aren't barrier threats, but I only played against... I think the only matchup I sided it out against was the Red Gohanks I played against. I sided it down to 3 copies because I was like, there's not really much barrier in that deck. Otherwise, all of the decks had at least 1 barrier card, which I needed to keep in mind, so I kept it in at 4. Super combos are still Vegeta, especially because we're not running a top 5 Demon Realm Race Searcher. This is just the super combo of choice. There's not too many extra cards in this build in comparison to previous builds I've played of the deck, but it's still nice just to have that cycle. There's no real relevancy to it being a Vegeta Xeno, even though it's a Saiyan-focused deck. We're not even running thwarting in the deck. That was the 51st card. That was the one card I had to cut, which I wasn't happy about cutting, but I wanted to keep the deck at 50. And then overarms, I ran Goku and Vegeta. I sided these cards out every single game for 2 copies of Bardock, so I never drew into them, I never played them. There's an argument to be made that you just run the Bardocks instead. It kind of depends on the format, whether you want to be the aggressor or the defensive, but most games today I wanted to be the defensive, except against U7, but against U7 I also wanted some kind of floodgate to stop their 6-drops with the Purunga combo and all that, and I figured Meki wouldn't be consistent enough, so Bardock Overarm is there to help with that as well. And you can also alternate Meki and Bardock turn by turn, because they both stop you from playing copies of that card for the next turn, so you just play the other one on the next turn. Secret rare of choice was very interesting. It was Kaioken. Again, this was the Z Unison focus of the build. I think the secret rare is actually very good. Obviously, a lot of it is going to be surprise factor. If they don't know you're running this card, it's going to steal games where it shouldn't. I did, unfortunately, only play it once today, which maybe juxtaposes my previous statement saying the card is very good. I do think the card is very strong. The issue is that the deck inherently already struggles to push through floodgates quite a lot. Nimbus already shuts the deck down a decent bit because the leader swing isn't huge unless you're in Z Awaken form, and even then in this version of the deck it's not huge because you don't combo the 10Ks. The Z Unison is still only 15k. It is a nice extra swing to have through, but it's just 15k, and then you have 1 battle card swing, which they probably have another negate for. So yeah, you're through cards like Nimbus or Explosive Dance, again, You generate a lot of Z energy in this deck, but a lot of the cards you're comboing off are cantrips, so they're like 5k or 4ks. So you're not actually able to use them to swing through all that much. And this deck also wants to use quite a bit of its Z energy, because a lot of the deck's removal is either in the Toa chain or in the Z deck. And the Toa chain you often want to play off of the Z battle card Toa, so yeah, this deck can struggle a lot to push through floodgates. The one game where I did play it, it did just win me the game on the spot, because I was playing against Green Goku, I'd managed to clear the Z Unison, they hadn't used Dormant, they tapped out, they were on 3 life, and so I was just able to drop this. I had 18 cards in hand, just kept swinging until he died. Yeah, the card is very strong if you're in a situation like that, but a lot of the time you don't get left in situations like that. It does lead me to kind of believe that Evil Saiyan, at least for this format, is probably the better SCR of choice. You could also make an argument for Bursting Rage to, if you're really concerned about U7, and Bursting Rage is also not too bad against Vegito, but I don't think it's actually that great into Vegito, because you can often clear most of their 30ks on your turn, and then when they're playing 30ks on their turn, they'll just play it 1 by 1, so the Bursting Rage Floodgate doesn't hit all that much. But I think there's an argument for Bursting Rage in the deck, because of U7 mainly, right now. I think Evil Saiyan probably continues to be my preferred option, because of the fact that it helps with your issue of not being able to deal with floodgates. If your opponent floodgates you and they're on like 3 or 4 life, you can just drop Evil Saiyan and then hopefully Z Awaken or use the Toa Spirit Boost to make your leader double strike, swing with Unison, maybe drop another Z Unison if they have enough negates or something. And then you've got 1 battle card swing left. So like the issue with this card is the same issue as the whole deck, is that it can't really push through a floodgate very well. Evil Saiyan obviously helps with that quite a lot, whereas this card doesn't. But this card, I wanted to play it again for the surprise factor because it was thematic with the Z Unison. I still think the card is very good in the deck. I still think there's an argument that you run the card. Mainly, again, for that surprise factor. People aren't going to know, in Best of 1 especially, that you're playing this secret rare until you drop it. And yeah, the one game where I did drop it, it won me the game on the spot. And the other games where there were games where I was looking to drop it, but against U7 they have cards like Time Magic, which shuts the card down as well. And I was trying to drop it against Gohanks as well, but Explosive Dance, I don't have 40k in my Z energy, so I wasn't able to force it through, unfortunately. But yeah, I think the card is definitely one to keep an eye on, and the fact that it's generic as well for any color is crazy good. Any deck that racks up markers on Z Unisons will be looking at this card as a potential option, so it's one to keep in mind. In terms of defensive stuff, we have 2 Gohan rares, 3 Power Burst, 2 Support, and 2 Petrification. I really wanted to go to 4 Power Burst, but the only way that I would have gone to 4 would be to cut down on token negates, and I think you still kind of need token negates, especially against Vegetos. You know, they can be very, very clutch in the when they do their turn 2, like explosive stuff. So I really wanted 3 Power Burst, but again, you don't really have the Sparking 5 all that often in the deck, because you often drop an Overrealm 4 on your turn, and then you know, your drop area is gone. You'll mostly end up with like 1 or 2 cards, and then if you use the counterplay, you burst another 2. That might get you to 3 or 4 in total. The Sparking 5 can be a bit tricky to set up, so I just went with 3 Power Burst in the end, as much as I really wanted 4, because this deck loves Power Burst. In terms of Z deck, we have the Z Leader, of course. This card is a lot worse in this version because of the fact you're not running the free 10ks from Warp, or even the free 6ks from Warp with the 1-drop Salsa. I was considering running the 1-drop Salsa over the 1-drop Toa, but there would never have been enough Demon Realm races to facilitate that, so it just didn't feel worth it. And the Toa has the nice utility of occasionally being able to set up your leader's activate main, which did actually come up a little bit today as well, which was very nice. But yeah, the Z Leader is still great to have as an option. It's a double strike finisher. That's also less relevant nowadays because of the fact that you have access to the Z Unison and the Toa can Spirit Boost to become Champa, basically. So the double strike on leader doesn't really matter so much, which I think is another reason against Bursting Rage as an SCR option, which is, again, why I mentioned Evil Sane as my favorite for the deck. And yeah, the fact that you can still combo up to 30k for a swing or on defense is still very nice. I think I did end up playing this card like 2 or 3 times today. And yeah, it was super hot in those games. And if you can ever get to this against U7 and you're able to safely Z Awaken, you're generally okay. As long as you're able to like safely Z Awaken plus have energy up to deal with a potential like Purunga plus 6-drop combo or anything like that. Or if you've used like a Bardock Floodgate for the turn before. And the reason being is that U7's strength is that it has this access to the 6-drop plus Purunga package, but it also has access to all of these very efficient 1-drop 20ks and 1-drop 15ks. And so the Z leader plus the counterplay that goes along with the Z Unison are very, very strong against the swarm half of the deck. And then I've kind of tried to tech the deck out for the 6-drop plus Purunga option. So moving on from the Z leader, we've got 2 Z extras. Again, this deck generates a lot of Z energy. This is also very good against the swarmy side of U7. I had a lot of games where people would try and combo high on like the duo Goku Vegeta that's double strike, and I'd be able to warp it, or the same with the Majin Vegeta. Just being able to have the option to warp a 5 cost or less is very strong. And the 10k buff is obviously very nice as well. That did come up a lot today. There were multiple games today where I'd be at like 6 or 7 energy looking to try and kill, and so I could just play this for 1 because of the fact that I had so much energy. And this deck doesn't really spend all that much energy, which is again another reason why Evil Sane SCR could be better, because I think you have the potential energy to go for it on kill turns. The nice thing about the current SCR, the Kaioken, is that you can just get like if you can get a super aggressive early start, then you can just win on turn 4, which is huge. And that is how my green Goku matchup ended up going today. Rest of the Z deck, we got 2 Z Unisons. I wanted to have 3, but I needed space for the other cards, and the third one never came up, so I think 2 is probably just fine. The fact that you have the second one is very nice against U7 because of the fact you can swing through Nimbus, like by overriding a Z Unison if you need to for a kill swing, which is the way I won one of my U7 matchups today as well. That is another argument for trying to find space for a third copy, but I don't think there is space, unfortunately. The only space I'd consider would be going back down to 1 copy of the Toa Z battle card. So rest of the Z deck is 2 Majin Buu, another great removal piece that the deck has. Yeah, just a great card. This deck can struggle with removal, at least on your turn, because the counterplay takes care of a lot of the opponent's stuff that's lower to the ground. So Majin Buu is very nice just to eat up stuff that you might have petrified that's bigger on the opponent's board, or if you don't have the Toa chain, just to clear some stuff and develop a bigger body. Also great way to get through token negates. This card and the Toa are kind of the only cards that remove stuff higher than 5 cost or less. So it can also hit token negates as well. Like, yeah. The one Goku, I don't think I ever played this card today, which is surprising considering the fact that it works so well in the Vegito package. The game that I had against Green Goku, where I was able to kill with the Secret Rare on turn 4, I did have Energy Marker available for this card as well, which I was trying to save, because he ended up token negating himself down to 2 life. I didn't have the Z energy at the time to drop this to clear the token, so I swung into the token with the Vegito, comboed a card so that I had 2 Z energy, and then just in case he was able to live all of the Kaioken stuff, I could then also drop this as a 25 double to push through. There was another game that I had where I was trying to set this up, because I had overround a 4-drop Goku Vegeta at some point. I was trying to set this up to go for the kill through a U7 that had tapped out on me and hadn't Nimbused. And I was trying to swing through with this and then set up a Vegito Union Potara, and then it would get the plus 10k. The only reason I didn't end up going for it was because I realized I didn't have the 10 cards in drop and warp combined. Otherwise, it was definitely a line of play that I could have seen myself going for. And then last two cards in the deck are the two Toazy battle cards. I don't think the second one ever came up for me today, because a lot of the time I was just playing Toa off of the leader skill instead. That was just because my matchups ended up being 3 U7s, so they had very little cards in drop. This deck used to struggle quite a lot into U7 because of the fact that they could Z-charge a bunch, you'd build a nice hand, but they'd also have a nice hand. And then they'd drop a bunch of Z energy in one time by dropping like the Kamehameha Z extra card, and then some other shenanigans along the way. But the main buff that this deck got again in that U7 matchup is the fact that that Z extra is now limited to 1, so they can't afford to just drop it early if they're not going to use it immediately to burn off. And that means they can't really get 2 battle cards into the drop super early, and so you can get a lot more draw power out of your leader skill throughout the game, which is very, very powerful. But yeah, the second Toa never really came up today. There's an argument that I cut it back down to 1 and go to 3 Z Unisons just to make the U7 matchup a bit stronger to push through Nimbus. But at the same time, I like 2 Toas, so. Going into the side deck, I put the side deck together at 2 AM this morning before I went to bed. So it was all based on theory. I hadn't tested any of it. We've got 2 Demigras. This is for Vegito and other black decks that like to abuse the same package I'm abusing. Came in clutch into the Vegito matchup that I had round 1. Very, very strong card. Yeah, it's a good card. If you want to run the Demon Realm race package again, if you want to go more Demon Realm focused, there is the 1-drop Toa that you could potentially run as a cantrip that can search evil wizards, demon gods, and Demon Realm races. So this card is searchable in black, which is super nice as an additional sideboard option. But you'd have to find space for that alongside copies of the Salsa, because you'd want the Salsa as the free 6k on the Z leader. But you could potentially go for 2 4-ofs of top 5 searches if you wanted to go full Demon Realm race and have this as searchable. But yeah, super great. Came in clutch in the first round. Didn't play any other black decks, so the Vegito was about where it ended there. I was siding 2 Hunts. This is a great black sideboard card again because of the fact you have consistent access to the Spirit Boost skill. And black finally has an answer to the Gogeta secret rare, as well as being able to, you know, blank Gogeta Aegises in general, which is great. Black never had a solid answer to those cards until now because of the fact we have Z Unisons that we can use alongside this card. And it also has the dual purpose of occasionally coming in against mainly green decks to try and stop any free floodgates that they might try and drop. And I did side 1 copy of this in the 1 green Goku matchup I faced. Didn't end up coming up, but it's also really nice into that matchup because you can, again, potentially pay 1 Spirit Boost this away from the drop and blank the 8-drop Goku so that you don't have to discard 3 when you kill it. So that's another nice dual purpose for the card. And it's also now recyclable from the warp because of the fact you have your Z Unison churning stuff back into your drop, which is great. We got 2 copies of Shin because I was concerned about the green matchup slightly, and it's a nice generic card. I didn't want to side Deburas because the main issue with this deck is I get very close to decking out if I go into the grind game, and against green you should probably end up in the grind game because of the fact they have dormants and uneasings, so they can stall out the game a lot, and you don't really have a way to push through that unless you're able to drop a clean hunt. So Shin is just nice to sort of take you to that grind game. It's another cantrip, so you have a little bit more to do when you do get floodgated. And I didn't want to run Deborah because it takes too many cards out of my deck if I resolve it. And that's another issue with the current secret rare, is the fact that if you're bursting 3 in this deck, you're already drawing a lot of cards. You will end up decking out if you don't kill them quickly. And there was, me and Mikey were chatting about the list and about the deck in general as a potential option for both of us. And Mikey was toying with the idea of potentially taking the build that we were theorizing up to like 52 or 54 cards to try and prevent the deck out from happening. I ended up just sticking with 50 cards because that's the way I do things, but luckily I didn't end up decking out. I got very, very close a couple of games. I had to have a couple of kill swings where I didn't bottom deck any cards with my super combos just so that I could get the free 10k, but without drawing the last cards in my deck. But yeah, that's my main reason for not wanting to run Dabura, was because I was very concerned about the possibility of decking out if I ended up dropping it, because I'd go into grind game against green. So Shin was just a nicer sideboard card and a more generic one overall. It ended up being relevant into the Gohanks matchup. Well, it would have been relevant if I'd seen it, but it was a nice sideboard there as well. Again, for green, we got the third Petrification. I didn't end up siding this into U7 matchups because of the fact that they will run the Annihilator Goku, which has always been one of my most hated cards in the game, so I'm not very happy that it's a meta card now as well. I think the card is very, very poorly designed overall. So yeah, you can't really side a third copy of this into U7. It's mainly there for green to stop the Goku Gohan and the other big cards they have, the big Goku. The cards you would side into U7 would be 2 Kai Negates, because it's not an extra card. And you can negate through Annihilator with this and, you know, clear the 6-drop off for a turn, which is all you need to do against the deck. This card's, yeah, very, very clutch in the U7 matchups. It allowed me to play a little bit more aggressively on my turns, knowing that if they did have Annihilator, I could still play the game. The main issue was trying to play around Purunga plus 6-drop, rather than Annihilator plus 6-drop. But yeah, Kai Negate is great into U7. Other cards that were great into U7 was the Bardock Overarms that I've already mentioned, and I ended up siding this into all my matchups because I figured that I wanted to generally be the defensive in all of those matchups. Actually, I don't think I sided this into the green Goku that I played against, because I wanted to be a bit more aggressive in that. 2 Koitsukai and 2 Super Kamehameha. Again, the deck struggles with Floodgates. I wanted 2 of each of these. Koitsukai is especially great in this deck because you can combo it off early to cycle a card with your leader skill, and then you have it available for later, and you can also recycle it from the warp if you end up overarming it with the Z Unison. I wanted these cards available for the potential that people would run Vegito Floodgate, like the counterplay in U7, as well as the Bardock Floodgate. And these cards are obviously great against those. People that I played against on U7, some of them were running those cards, but some of them weren't. And the people that were running those cards, I saw them charge them, or Z-charge them instead of actually playing them. I don't think anyone ever dropped the Bardock or the Vegito against me once in our games. The testing that I've done with Geo, he's been dropping especially the Bardock like crazy, and it is really, really annoying to deal with, so I did want these cards available just in case that did happen, but people seem to still be more focused on Nimbus, which I do think is correct. I think Nimbus is harder to deal with overall, especially later on, of course. So yeah, maybe these cards aren't even necessary anymore, and we can try and figure some way to counter a Nimbus, you know, in black. But yeah, that is the whole deck list. I guess I'll run through my matchups quickly. My round 1 was against Black Vegito. I got a very strong opening hand into him and was able to use the Demigrat on my turn 2 to clear his 6-drop. I'd also not swung at him on my turn 1 going second, because I didn't want him to potentially charge 2 Z energy for free. He did have the Goku that lets him Z-charge itself when it's comboed with a Vegeta, and he played a Vegeta turn 1, so it didn't end up mattering too much, but it did make his drop area maths a little bit tricky for the overarm, because then I warped a card from his drop when he swung leader into leader. So he had to combo a couple of cards over because I didn't swing at him turn 1, which was nice. It would have been especially strong if I had seen a negate early. I didn't see any negates in my opening hand, and I mulliganed and didn't see any negates as well. I would have loved to have seen a Power Burst or a Petrification there to stop the initial leader swing, so that again he just doesn't have Z energy, can't really do much on turn 2. And then if the deck doesn't have that turn 2 pop-off, it's way less scary, because you can get to turn 3, and then you start having combos available to deal with the 6-drops as well as this. And then past turn 4, you just keep, like, the deck outscales Vegito massively. Vegito is very much an early game oriented deck, at least the way people are playing it now. But yeah, I was able to use this to kill his 6-drop. And then I had a very nice hand of like a Toa Chain plus an Overrealm plus something else to swing through with, I think. And I was able to take down his Z Unison. Oh, I think I ended up yeah, I dropped my own Z Unison, Overround. He tried to counterplay. I counterplayed his counterplay. And then swung a bunch at his Z Unison, awakened because he's taken me to 4, and then dropped the Toa Z battle card to go up the swap chain as well. So I had a lot of swings on my turn 2 to counteract all the aggression he'd put onto me. And because I was able to take out his Z Unison, the matchup was a lot easier. But I think if you're not able to kill the Z Unison on turn 2 in that matchup, it can be really hard. Maybe there's an argument to just side Black Smokes for that exact reason. And we could cut some of the anti-floodgate cards at the bottom of the side deck. So it could be worth a try there. Round 2, I believe, was when I played against Red Gohanks. That game was a pretty long one. I think we were both pretty close to decking out by the end of that. And unfortunately, it did end up going to time. I was not sure. I know the time that the turn that time was called, Explosive Dance was dropped on me, and I think I'd taken him to 2 or 1 life. I'm not sure if I would have been able to push through, because I can't really remember how big my hand was. But I had a couple of Z energy by that point, so I was going to try and push through at least. And then round 3 was against the first U7 of the day, against Ivan, and that was a ridiculous game. I'm pretty sure we went to turn 10. We had a ridiculous amount of energy. Both of us, again, very close to decking out. And again, unfortunately, that did go to time. Again, like, I think a big reason why I probably won't play this deck in the future is because of how grindy some of the matchups are, at least in the current meta, with mainly U7 being a particularly long matchup. Especially in my testing games, our games have gone on for a long time against when I've tested against U7. So I think a big reason why I would maybe not play this deck in the future is because of just the length that the U7 matchup can tend to go. But maybe that's more of a U7 issue than this deck issue, I'm not sure. And then round 4, I believe I played against the Green Goku, which I was able to push through very early on. I had a super aggressive start. Well, actually, we traded a couple of turns where we were both just dropping cantrips. He kept giving his cantrips blocker. I kept drawing off of my leader skill. We were both just drawing like a bunch of cards. I think I had 18 cards in hand to his like 14. And it reached the point where I was able to have a nice turn 4 where I'd traded a couple of cards in to clear out his Z Unison using a Toa swap chain plus like an Overrealm. And he ended up tapping out for a Goku Deflection Kamehameha to kill my the Overrealm Goku Vegeta so that I couldn't Union Potara, which is what I was planning to do, and just leave it on a Union Potara with 1 energy up for a Petrification and sort of stabilize from there. But then he tapped out to kill the Overrealm, and I was like, that's really annoying. I can't end up as defensive as I wanted to be, going set up into the next turn. And then I looked at my hand and saw the SCR in there, and I was like, wait, maybe I can kill him. And so I used the last energy, or 2 energy that I had, to put on a couple more swings to push him to 3 life. And then, yeah, dropped down Kaioken, because I had the Z Unison in play. Swung Triple Strike, he token negated. I restood, swung into the token, comboed a card so that I had the energy marker for the SS4 in the Z deck available. And then swung Triple Strike to his leader for a 3rd time. And I think at that point I dropped all of my super combos, taking me to 1 card in deck, comboed up to like 130k or something, and was able to get the game there. Rounds 5 and 6 were both again against U7. They were a lot faster games, luckily. The round 5 was I had my first encounter with the new Vegeta TP, the red one, that you pay 3 and play it in. That card is very scary. He was able to take me from like a comfortable 7 life to 3 life in 1 turn because of that. But it did cause him to burn the energy marker. And in all of my U7 matchups, in fact, I went first, which is obviously not ideal for U7 because you want that safety net of the energy marker so that they don't Annihilator and Porunga you and do all of that stuff. Energy marker and Kai Negate is very hard for them to push through unless they're running T-Blow, and at that point they kind of need to get to like 7 energy to be able to have the chance to push through. So yeah, I managed to start off very aggressively into that U7 because he tapped out for this Vegeta, which cleared my board. But because he'd then tapped out, I knew I wasn't getting hit with Nimbus, so I was able to drop a Toa swap chain, went into some Overrealms and Union Patara stuff. And I think there I also used the -3 of my Z Unison to just bring out another swing, and was able to push him down quite a lot. And then eventually managed to clutch out the win a couple of turns later, which was very nice. Oh, I will mention in my first U7 matchup against Ivan, my first crit swing that I managed to push through was the God Rare, which was a big surprise. I wasn't expecting that Secret Rare, of course. I'm expecting Porunga in these matchups, but it was especially nice to see that gone because I then knew I didn't have to play around Porunga the rest of the game. And in my second U7 matchup in round 5, I was able to force out a Gohan Piccolo Secret Rare on the turn that he tapped out because I was able to go very aggressive into him. And again, that meant I didn't have to play around Porunga. And then in the last round of the tournament, I unfortunately paired down into another U7. If I had won this round, there would have been an extra round in the tournament, but I ended up losing, unfortunately. And I would have made finals if I had then obviously won this round. Yeah, I got hit with a Porunga on turn 3, and it hurt a lot. I did have the chance to drop a Meki the turn before off of my leader skill. I went for the Toa chain instead to try and be a bit more aggressive. There was an argument for and against, and I'm not sure in the moment which was the correct play, but I got punished for the play I didn't take, which is a bit unfortunate. But overall, still very happy with second place, considering I just wanted to play the deck and hopefully make top 8. But yeah, I just wanted to try out the deck, see how I did with the Z Unison stuff, and have a bit of fun with a leader that I enjoy. And we managed to do pretty well, which is cool. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Sorry if I've been rambling a little bit. Like I said before, I'm exhausted at the moment, so we're going to go take a nap. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully some more content coming soon, mainly Star Wars from now, but a little bit of Masters here and there when I play in any events. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.